If this is your first time to Coming Back to Love, the podcast, welcome. We're so glad you found us. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. Either way, you're not here by accident. I'm your host, Karen Walker Cohn, a wife, a mom, entrepreneur, friend, and dreamer who is ready to step into more of who I am created to be. I am committed to personal transformation for global impact. Now, this podcast may be very different from others. Our guests don't come with a topic or agenda. They come open and ready to receive and deliver the message that's meant for you. You will also notice our podcast is not overly produced. This is on purpose. Our hope is we will inspire you to step into who you're created to be, regardless of how it may look. Take inspired action on that book, business, relationship, and yes, podcast, or whatever it is on your heart. In my experience, my mess usually ends up being my message. I encourage you to approach our time today with a beginner's mindset and with openness to receive what is meant for you. In this episode, I'm speaking with Tracy L Clark, a high-performance energy coach and the founder and creator of the TLC Academy of Extraordinary Living. Tracy was recently selected as Top Energy Healer of the Year for 2024 by the International Association of Top Professionals for her outstanding leadership, dedication, and commitment to the industry. Tracy serves on a global level, helping people transition their lives to one they know they're meant to live, not one they've been programmed to live. She is a teacher, international speaker, inspirational leader, humanitarian, and has authored multiple books, including her newly released books, God, Where Are You? It's Me, TLC, 31 Days of Prayer, and 31 Days of Prayer and Affirmations. Her mission is to show people how to transform their lives quickly on every level and learn how to prepare for living in the new earth that is currently unfolding. Tracy hopes you will see the greatness within you, let go of the fear inside, and follow your inner knowing. Hello, Tracy.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you on our podcast. Oh, this is going to be so wonderful. The way I would like to start is by asking you a question. And so getting you to just tune in, take deep breaths, whatever gets you there. And the question I have is, when you hear the title of this podcast, Coming Back to Love, Inspiring Stories on Shifting Perspectives, what story from your life comes to mind?
Oh, I can do this in two ways. Looking at all the stories and things that we've gone through, and I know I've gone through, is really about, when we come back to love, is loving ourselves, not being afraid to be the lighthouse that we are, and shine that light, and never be afraid to shine that light. I know when I look back at my life, and I even had an experience this weekend where for the first time I realized I was not hiding any part of who I was. And although people look at me and say, well, you just shine that light now. And I remembered that I didn't. I hid. I always let somebody else in the background. And, you know, if somebody looks at you or has whatever, I'd always kind of just even pull my body back a little bit and let them be. And I was probably about 85% there. And I realized this weekend that I was fully 100% who I was. And when we're going through our life, it's easy to look at our challenges, and it's easy to look at the troubles that we've gone through and feel that we don't deserve to have all that love and that overflow. And when you think about coming back to love, it's embracing the full essence and authenticity of knowing exactly who we are.
Wow. All right. End of podcast. No, yeah, seriously. Okay. That really spoke to me. I know that you know my story, and I know that I know your story. And that really speaks to me, even as I'm currently in doing, I mean, I think we're always doing that soul work.
100%.
I'm currently in a program that that has it's been an experiential based type of a program that I was like, oh my gosh, I thought I healed this already. I thought I and I'm finding that as I go through the different levels, like spiraling up as I go towards those above the line energies, enlightenment being right at the top. As I go towards that, I feel like I'm butting up against those hurts and those things that could potentially spiral me back down. If I chose decay instead of growth, I'm choosing growth. So what would you say to those people who are, we're all on that coming back to love journey, and maybe they're headed towards, the below the line energies, the fear, blame, shame, guilt, all those things. What would you say to that person that is coming up against that hurt time after time?
Yeah, because it can be consistent and it can feel like months, years. A lot of times it's years. Like you said, you feel like you've conquered it, and then something comes up and says, wait a minute. And one of the things that helped me, and I hope it helps listeners, is, like I just said, I was about 85% there, right? And then I hit 100.
Wow.
And I've been doing this full on conscious work. We're always conscious, but full on for over 23 years. And feels like a day. But it's understanding that when it comes up, it's just another layer. Don't beat yourself up. Don't give up, because every time a layer is moved through, it opens space in your physical body to receive more, and it opens more space for your spirit to become even more present, right? Because we're having these human experiences, and the spiritual body can start to really activate itself on another level. And it's easy because of the programming we've grown up with of the now society, and it's one and done, and that's not how it works. And the whole reason the one and done narrative has taken place is to make people impatient and go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, which never allows you full growth. It doesn't allow you to sit in the energy and receive. And it doesn't allow you to actually transform your life. And people miss this. They're like, oh, I'm going to this one and this one and this one. And, it's like, I call them course junkies, where, the people where they don't actually absorb it and take the time. They're just running one weekend to the next weekend to the next, versus staying steady with something and learning. And so if people are feeling that it's like, wow, this is coming up again, don't look at it as you're back at the start. You're not back at the start. It's just another layer that's ready to come through and catapult you. And what I learned is what maybe took me a year to kind of get through something, because I was learning. The more I became connected with my inner self and spirit and stronger with that God energy, the process got quicker. So if something's coming out of your closet that you didn't know was there and it's a hurt, don't look at it as, oh my God, it took me 6 months to get through this before. Start asking yourself, well, wait a minute, it could take 3 days or a week this time. Now you're on your feet, ready for the next one.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I call that the bounce back. I remember the first time that I truly dealt with sexual abuse. Truly dealt with it was really it's 10 years ago, and this happened to me when I was a child. And so I remember being in my room, crying in a corner for 3 days. Like, people would come in and I would to my room, like when I say people, like my kids and stuff, and I'd be like, just get out. Like I ugly cried for 3 days. Now when I come back as I continue to do the work, it's like an elastic. It's just like, oh yeah, you again. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. My goodness. That,
But also, too, giving ourselves permission for that, because the body has carried those emotions and those imprints for so long. And so people will shame themselves that they had ugly cry. Well, if you're not having an ugly cry, then you're holding it in. So,
yeah.
that's the body's way of getting it out so you can bounce back faster.
No, absolutely. I feel like I had this saying, I have been in the construction industry at a man's world, so to speak, for a very long time. I've been doing that work for, 30 plus years. And I had this saying, die before cry. Die before cry. I was like never going to let any man, especially as a facilities manager, a construction manager, because of the way I look and I present, it's like, oh, you don't know anything or whatever. And then you realize, oh, she does. Okay. So I was not going to let them see me as weak.
Yeah.
Even though I never really believed crying was weak. I was worried about what they believed.
Yeah.
you know, and the people pleasing and that kind of stuff. And there's no way, die before cry. And when I started doing that work, it's like, now, Tracy, I cry for everything. I cry when I see you cry. I cry when, just the level of compassion that's in my heart has shifted. I went from the fear and, where I was heading with that saying, and now, coming back to love. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
And when you have that love, right, then you have compassion and you have empathy, and that becomes contagious. And that's why it's important. I've worked with men that have said they've never cried, and then they'll call and say, oh my God, I'm driving down the street and I see this little kid skateboarding. I'm crying. Like, what's happening? What did you do to me? Turn this off, And it's like,
what
no.
Jedi mind tricks are you playing?
Yeah. What's happening? I shouldn't be crying. But it's like then that hard, they start to feel again. And, unfortunately, with so many of the experiences we go through and the way our world was conditioned for so long, we became disconnected from our body and our feelings in a lot of ways. And that became safety and survival, right? No different than you talk about what happened as a child. And when we have great traumas as children, and many of us have, we build safety walls against around us, right? For not being hurt and not feeling. And we're not taught that in school. We're not taught how to connect. And I mean, really connect. We're unfortunately, those systems will change and come back, but we need to learn them as children in safety.
Yeah.
Versus survival.
Yeah. And so how do you, like with the work that you do, in every area, how, when somebody comes to you, how do you even start? How do you even start on that road with them? Like, or what do you say to a person that wants to start down this road?
Yeah. Normally it's looking, when somebody shows up, it's they're usually ready for change, right? They're ready. They've had enough. They've sort of gone through the old systems and they realize it's not really working for them anymore. And that's how I started too, right? It's like, I don't really want to talk about this over and over again. You still have a conversation, but you want it gone. Like, week after week, you keep talking about the same thing, how you feel. I don't feel any better. Is usually the response, right? Because it's got to move out of the body. So usually when somebody does show up, I ask them, are you really, ready at all costs to do this? And because that means making yourself a priority, not self-care, making yourself a priority. And are you willing to do it and walk through the pain and walk through the things that, you're going to have to walk through and make choices and decisions. So, showing them and teaching them, because the way I can read, I go in and out of the body, right? I read it, see it, feel it, hear it. Body is always telling you what's happening. And so as we get into understanding what a situation is and every body where it comes from, then I'll be like, well, you're going to need to change this. And that's where people get a block, because everybody, they want that perfect relationship, or they want that money, or they want their body healed, or whatever it is. But there are things that we do as humans that we need to change. And those are painful usually, right? We have to leave a relationship, or leave a job, or change the way we eat, and there's always reasons energetically why we do them. So it's having them understand what's your why. Like, why are you really wanting to do this work? Some people want to do this work just so they can talk the talk, but they don't walk the talk. It's very different. But that's like anything, right? So when they show up, it's like, what is your why? How dedicated are you to yourself for making that transition? And it's baby steps. I always say, go to big steps. I wish we could rip everything off at once. Sometimes we can, but if you do, sometimes you can, but the body can go into a spasm. Like I was working on someone not too long ago, and I just said to him, we're going to do this baby steps, because we do rip this off at once, probably end up in the hospital not knowing what's happening. We're not going to do that. And he's like, okay, good. But it's again, watching the bodies, how much can they handle? And people say they can handle everything. And I equate it to people winning the lottery, because everybody can relate to that. Not everybody can relate to other situations, but a lot of people say they want to win the lottery, but if they win it, they lose it. Why? Because they're not prepared. They don't have a solid foundation.
Right.
They're not grounded. But this principle applies in every part of our life. And so we have to get the foundations cleaned. And to clean a foundation, you were in construction. You can't build a new house on a 100-year-old foundation. You need to change the foundation, which means changing how we perceive things,
right,
how we show up in our life, how we communicate with people. And that's a process of learning and applying, and then shifting that energy to make it easier. And then also, if you've had, like you were just saying, I was a big people pleaser like you, right? So you close your words down. You stop saying things. Oh, look at me. I'll be the nice 1950s housewife, leave it to Beaver, and maybe you'll love me, and then you realize it doesn't work. But how do you express that?
Right.
How is there safety in your words? So typically it's retraining people to understand things you can say, things you can do, to give you confidence and safety while you're dismantling an old paradigm to create a new foundation.
No, that is so crazy that like yesterday I was talking to my son, and we were talking about words and how important it is. And he was trying to formulate a response to someone, and he kept using the word but. And I was saying, what if we switch that but to an and? Like, what if we just take out all the buts and just put ands? And he was like, Mom, that doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make any sense. I'm not doing it. It sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, and the old me would have said, no, do this. It's the right thing to do, blah, blah, blah. And I just kind of let him have, like, that's because he gets to get to a point where that shifts for him.
Yeah.
And I am done forcing it, because, especially with our kids, right? Like, just done forcing it. You get to have your own experience in life. And I've noticed that in the last 6 months, changing my words and how programmed even my words are. I'm like, wow.
Oh, I even still catch myself. And I'm teaching this constantly. Like when I'm teaching workshops and stuff, I'm always teaching words and bodies and what it's doing. And sometimes I'll catch myself. And I'm like, oh, shit. And then I back it up. I do an autocorrect on myself. I'm like, I got to autocorrect that and change it. But sometimes it is. We just have to know that it's okay. It's okay. Just autocorrect yourself. You'll be all right.
Yeah, it is okay.
Yeah,
it is.
It's okay.
And so, like, one of the other things that I feel that's really important for our listeners is tying in, the science, the belief systems, like tying it all together. I don't know about you, but I know I'm still running into people who it's like, no, this is separate. This was separate from this.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, Karen, just sounds like woo woo, like what happened to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Woo woo. Well, because a lot of people are programmed that we show me the science. And we know there's a ton of science behind energy work and connection, whether, you're looking at the Heart Math Institute or people like Dr. Emoto, Joe Dispenza, or Greg Brainerd, or all these people, right? There's so many of them out there. And people are conditioned to the science. But what I say to them is science is also a snapshot in time. It's no different than you hear coffee's good for you one day because a scientist said so, and coffee's bad for you because this researcher said so, right? Or chocolate's good for you, chocolate's bad. That's a real dumbed down approach. But people have to start to understand it is a snapshot. It's forever changing. So I used to be that person. Like, show me the science in the beginning. 23 years ago, show me the science. Show me, oh, how does it work? I was pretty much like an atheist, right? Like, show me it. And then you get to a point where the more you start applying and understanding connection and really frequencies to the body, there is a point where you're like, I don't care about the science anymore, because you start seeing your whole life change. You see it change inside, and then you start walking in this reality where you're like, whoa, this is really cool. Like, when my body went from the experts saying there's no more we can do for you, like, they're following science. Okay. So
Yeah.
I get it. They're following certain criterias and blood out, and there's like nothing more, like, live with this and let's, that's your last hope. Live with it.
Right.
Let's see what happens with all these different ailments. And that was my body's breaking down. That's not a good enough reason for me. So for me, I had a different approach with science, because it was like, your science that you follow, fine, I respect it, but it's not working for me anymore. I've been following it for 30 some years and I'm sicker than ever, and things are not getting better. So when I went and looked at the science on the energy side and then started incorporating the energy, and my body just started to change and transform to completely healthy, where nothing, it was just all went away. Because again, we all know physical issues are very connected to our emotional body. We're all connection, right? So when we look at a lot of science too, it's very single focused. And I'm not bashing it. I think it's still great and wonderful to learn. And you should learn everywhere you can. But you have to understand that a lot of it's very separate in separate areas. And when we look at the body and we look at energy and we look at how we're creating our life and coming back, like, I always call it a heart drive. Like, your heart drive is the hard drive of your computer. I've been saying this for years, and people go, that makes sense, right? So now other people use like, wow, it is. You can't slice and dice your heart and keep going, but you can slice and dice other parts of the body. So when people start to understand it's a snapshot, and I went through that personally, and I was like, wow, okay, I don't really care anymore. People are like, I need it. I'm like, oh, here, go read this book. It's fine. If you need the science, go study the Heart Method if you need it. But when the body fully starts to connect into the God within you, and that God energy, you start to see miracles unfold in ways and that you can't explain to people. And that's not science. And that there's a part of science, I'm going to say it, maybe I'll get in trouble. I always believe I always believe there's a part of science that's been created to keep us stuck.
Wow. And what's really interesting is that, like, I hear you saying that I get, in the circles that I run in, I get, show me the scripture on that So, and isn't that interesting? And you, as a reverend.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So, like I know my calling is specifically to the Christian church, and wanting them to tap into all that there is, all that there is as far as knowledge goes. And so do you get that from your side as well?
I do. And, the way I explain it is, again, these are all reference and points of views that if we go back in time, how much, and I can always see this energetically, but how much has been manipulated or changed. And the bottom line is, when we're going to love, this is how I look at it, we should always have respect of where everybody is, but always be open-minded to very different ways of being. There isn't a right or a wrong all the time. And what I find in people is like, well, if it doesn't say it in this scientific book or this scripture or whatever, then it's not real. Why? Why is that not real? Because your experience is outside of that. It doesn't mean it's not real. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't. So what part of the person is locked into, that's a safety mechanism again.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. That's a crutch. Because when you take away all of these other things, you strip them away, your spirit body doesn't have a crutch. It knows everything, right? It doesn't need a crutch. So I say to people, when we expand our perceptions outside of that, it's our own judgments that are creating the crutch. It's our own, we're again relying on something. And this is outside of us. And every time somebody needs that kind of, I'm like, you're relying on something outside of you. I'm not saying don't take it, but you got to go within because your answers are always inside of you.
Absolutely.
And they're not outside, but everything's been conditioned. Rely on this, rely on that. And, you know, I think for me, because I've had experiences with the Christ in different ways, and it doesn't always sit well when I share some of that with people. But then when they sit with it, they go, that makes total sense.
Right.
And sometimes you go, you know, you hold yourself back going, well, wait a minute. But then when you understand that that energy is also love, it makes sense because the biggest thing, the Christ energy with people, when they say it has to be in scripture, I'm like, you do know that he was about follow me and do better and no judgment and no division. No division. So if everybody's in division, we have a problem. That is not of God, love, light, because his teaching was no division. Love everybody. There is no division.
Yeah.
Just that statement alone, people think where do you take something to divide or isolate? You know that needs to be looked at.
Yeah. Wow, that's perfect. Oh my gosh. I appreciate you so much and your work. And ladies and gentlemen, this woman is like fresh off being selected as, and I have to say this on the podcast, as energy healer. It's top energy healer of the year for 2024.
Yeah. I know. I have this little award. It's so funny. They gave this to me. It's on my desk here. And I said to my boyfriend, it's one of those awards. It's so heavy. You see it in the movies. And maybe he's like, you know, it's a crime award almost. It's so heavy. I'm like, whoa, this is quite the piece.
That's amazing. I love it so much. And of course, so well deserved and awarded from the International Association of Top Professionals. And so if you know anything about this organization, people, it's very prestigious and they handpick the finest top professionals from different industries.
Across the board, actually.
Yeah.
And it surprised me. And I think it's because, when I got the phone call, I was like, what's going on here? Like, what's happening? Because we just show up every day. You do the same thing. We show up every day. And if we can change a life or somebody can feel better about something, then we know we've done what we're here to do. And, I know as a small child and anybody listening, a lot of times we know there's something we come with that's different and unique. And I was always such a strong feeler, but never had any guidance to what that was. Then when I went through the kidnapping, the site opened.
Wow.
But not to always good things, right? People think you're going to say, I see good things and bad things. I don't talk about those all the time, but I didn't understand. I'd be like, okay, God, why do I have to see this? Well, it's because how do you help navigate through someone or something? Like, we've got to have an awareness on the other side. And a lot of times in this world, people think, oh, it's just happy and namaste and swirl the light. And it's like, that's not what it is. It's not that. And so, every day, and even the decision to do what I'm doing full time now and stepping out of corporate all these years ago was not an easy decision because you know, I was faced with large amounts of income and now go to your own business. You know, what are you going to do as a single mom?
Yes.
Right?
I mean, I retired from corporate America June 2nd.
Wow.
And so that I can do this podcast as my contribution. Yeah. And, you know, podcasts cost money.
Oh, everything does. I know. I'm like, oh my God.
No, listen, I was so naive about this. I thought I could just get on the air, press play, and and send it out over the interwebs. And I'm like, wow, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
This contribution, what's the point of giving if there's no cost to it? It's not giving at that point.
No.
And so, I appreciate you saying that. And this is what I chose to do. I retired so that I could follow my heart.
I think that's the hardest thing because the way our world's been structured, and then we don't trust that it's going to work out. Like, I remember the day I had to make a decision, and when I made the decision, it was like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to use my savings to just start this crazy business that, grew word of mouth. And I knew it was going to do well, because the minute I said that, it was like this weight just lifted off my shoulder, and I kept going, and this peace came over me, and I kept looking behind me going, what was that? But that was spirit saying, like, spirit approved, you're on the right path. And yeah, it's not all glory. My old mentor used to say to me, you have a blessing is that you make everything look really easy.
Wow.
A curse is that you make everything look really easy. And I'd look at her and I get it, because people don't see what we do behind the scenes, and they don't see, like, for me, everything I teach, I use my same tools, and and I've had to go through different challenges, even though life is beautiful in so many ways now when I look back, but there's always something that'll pop up or something you don't expect. And it's through our challenges and that adversity that we actually grow into more of our authenticity. Right.
Oh yeah.
And
that's beautiful.
Yeah. So people, these are choices that we need to make, and then say, okay, well, I kind of was in the beginning going, what's the worst thing that happened? I'd go back down into corporate, but you're right. There's expenses, and we take this leap of faith. And so it's a journey. There are highs and lows, and to receive that award was very, very special. And it was interesting, because they said they wanted to give it to me for 2023. People say, why 2024? And they said, because we want to recognize you for the entire year in a different way. So could we do it for 2024 so we can recognize you very differently versus this little chunk of what's left in 23?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And I said, sure, that's totally
You're
fine.
like, sure, I'll be the best next 2025, 2020.
Yeah. Well, and I love it because part of the organization they do love, and was very, where it touched my heart, was they look for your strong giving contribution back to the planet to make a change. It's one of the things I didn't know about. And then I was talking to them, and I was like, wow, all of these, it was an honor to be amongst all of these professionals who, across the board, who are working to make the planet a better place, more loving, more kind, and we're contributing, like, all of us together. And that to me spoke volumes. And that, I cried. I was very,
I cried for you.
My boyfriend's like, are you okay? And I'm like, just give me a minute. I'll be right back. He's like, are you all right? I'm like, no, but in a good way, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. What an honor. Yeah. And we're like, we have a mutual friend, James Sinclair, and he called me, like, this is after we booked, because y'all, this is the first, it may not be the first podcast, but this is the first of Coming Back to Love for podcast recording. Yes. And so he was like, have you talked to Tracy? Do you know she was selected? And I was like, we have a podcast booked, recording time booked already. It's like, what? Yeah. So, I'm forever grateful to him introducing me to you. It has been, even though we may like be in our own world, so to speak, doing our own thing, we're in this world together, energetically working together. And I really appreciate you. I appreciate how you have supported me and everything that I am stepping out into. It really means everything. I know that this award is such a highlight for you and your career, and there are times where it's been a little bit of a roller coaster. Yeah. And I mean, even this recording, I'm looking at it right now and I'm going, oh, crazy. I can't get your camera to focus. But so it's all like, even in the midst of amazing things. Yeah. There can be little needles or little things that are poking in that could maybe at one time have thrown me off my game. Yeah. And now to me, this is an opportunity. I get to learn something about podcast for the next
Something
recording.
new for the next one. And you're crystal clear. I'm like, hey, we're clear.
Yeah, which is so,
yeah.
I'm crystal clear on my side, you not so much.
Wow.
But your audio is pristine. And that's what really matters. That's what really matters.
Something new for all of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
well, it is. It's a journey, and I'm honored. You know, you and I have known each other. Like I said, our ups and our downs and the craziness. And what I love about this is we're always connected. Whether, you know, there's never, you and I can pick up exactly where we're left off tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, that's how we're in the right energy and we're in the right space. We can go for a while and not connect, and then we connect, and it's like, oh yeah, like I talked to you yesterday. And
exactly.
And that's what people have to understand is when you come into that love and that space and that alignment, and you're out of that judgment and you're in that energy, that's exactly what's happening, right? It's that you're having so many conversations in the ethers that when you do connect, it is like you connected yesterday because you're already having those conversations.
Yeah. That's a beautiful place to be. And that's where, you know, you're like, you're coming back to love, you know, you're on your way back to love. And it's just like, and some of us are living there more often than others. Yeah. But I appreciate how, you know, if y'all don't know Tracy's story, I encourage you to, get on her. Like, she's got a podcast, she's an author, she's got it all. And we'll drop those all in the show notes for everybody, but get a chance to know her because your story is so incredible. And I want to say one of the things that I'm noticing, and I don't know, Tracy, if you can speak to this, is that, you know, when I asked you that question at the top, you could have went into kidnapping. You could have went into all these different things, your health, your, like all the things that, you know, maybe was taking you away from love, you know, or could have the potential to do that. And maybe it did for a bit. But I noticed that you don't go there. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, and I've been asked that question too, but I'm really interested before we wrap up, you know, what's in your thinking around, I guess, not going there?
Because here's the thing. You can sit and dwell in the past. These are things that help us move forward. Or you can look at how they did help you move forward. So if I go there, that's kind of, to me, when people want to know where I'm explaining, okay, you know, some people that takes it as a shock space, but I take it as these things all got me to where I am today. I'm actually very grateful when I look at my journey that I got here today. So I take that as I want to keep moving forward. I want to keep looking forward. I want to keep expanding that love and that kindness as much around the world. Like every day I ask to drop love all around the world and to drop that energy and speak to the subconscious. And so I don't want to live in that. That is how people can understand how I got to where I am today.
Right.
And yes, there was many times, like before this journey, I was pretty much an atheist and telling the world to F off. And that's why I had so many near-death experiences. But I don't need to live there anymore. Somebody can learn it to understand it. But when we're moving forward, we have to keep letting those little bags go away. And so I like to say I have a little backpack and, you know, whatever. The suitcases are gone and no more suitcases. And that took a lot of learning and understanding. And so it's not that it's not about positive thinking, not at all. That to me doesn't work. We have to actually deal with the things when they come up. Yeah. But it's really for all of us to understand that we have to dig really deep and keep shining that light in any way that we can and be that lighthouse, like I said, to shine that we will continue to reap those rewards in such a healthy manner in our soul through peace and through connection and love. And for me, the world needs to learn more of peace and togetherness on a big global scale. And we're learning it. We're birthing something new. Like we're just in the birth canal. You've had babies, right? It's like, oh God, get it out, you know, and everybody's screaming. They want the world to change. And we know it's changing. It just takes time. But So to make those birthing pains a little easier for people and to understand that if I can do it and you can do it, everybody listening, you can do it too.
Yes.
If you're feeling weak and down, we've been there. You see us today because we've been through the trenches. We've been through that adversity. We learn the tools and we apply them. So if you're feeling that, don't look at where we are and look at it as a big, oh my gosh, can I do it? You can do it. It's a baby step. It's a light. It's believing in yourself. We believe in you, but you got to believe in you too.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for putting that exactly the way that it needed to be put. I appreciate that. So before we wrap up, the last question I have is, what do you want to leave the listener with today?
I think I just want to reiterate that no matter what you see going on outside, more than ever, please take the time to go inside and look at yourself and understand you do have the power to change. Everything around you, I know people are tired of hearing that, is things we've created to grow. But if you're in the right place, in the right environment, and the right support, you can actually change your life pretty quickly. But it starts with you believing in who you are at all costs. And we're at a time in this history where we have to get really truthful with ourselves and just say, truthfully, am I in at all costs to change my life, to change the course? And you are going to get so much pushback from the people around you. And just remember, the only reason is because you're changing the paradigm. And now you're shining your light brightly in them. They're afraid to change the paradigm. Doesn't mean you have to cut them off and walk away and fight. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is maybe take that you were given a special task from the powers to be to help elevate other people. And if you can hold that, you will continue to change your life while you're elevating others.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, Tracy L Clark, I appreciate you. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm so glad you're on this earthly plane doing this work. And y'all, if you don't know Tracy, get to know her. And like I said, we'll drop everything in the show notes. I thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being my friend.
Thank you. I just love you. And you're just kicking it out of the park. I'm so proud you took the leap of faith. I have chills just saying that.
Oh, thank you. This is the girl that started with, Spirit Says Yes. So I have this thing like, I got goosies. Every time I say I got goosies, I think of Tracy Clark. I think of
Spirit approved. Spirit approved.
Exactly. So thank you so much. Spirit approves of you, of me, of what we're doing here. And I just love you so much.
So much love to you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Coming Back to Love, the podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please make sure to click the link in the description to take you to the full video episode on our YouTube channel. If you absolutely love what we're about, please follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a review. For more inspiration and resources, visit my website at theklwprojectgroup.com, where you'll find all the ways you can connect with me. I would love to hear your suggestions for topics, questions, and future guests you'd like to hear from to support your coming back to love journey. In the meantime, have an inspiring rest of your day.